Well, that was fantastic, guys.
Oh, thank
That was a breath of fresh air. I'll tell you what, those tunes were so catchy. They sounded familiar, like I've heard them before. That's how catchy they were. I really dig your stuff, guys.
Appreciate it. Much
Yeah,
appreciated.
yes, thank you again for having us here, man.
Yeah, anytime. So, why don't you go and introduce yourselves and talk a little bit what influenced you to start playing music and where you're from and all that.
My name is Benny,
Oh, I'm Angel.
and we met over a decade ago at the North Palm Beach School of Rock. So we kind of grew up playing music together. We were in a high school band together called Jumbo Shrimp.
And that's in Florida?
That's in South Florida. Yep. And then we moved here to Philadelphia. Well, not here, but we moved to Philadelphia in late 2019. We've been here kind of ever since. Just been chilling, making bops,
Yeah.
and jamming out. Glad shows are kind of coming back. And
So what was that band like, the Gumbo?
so Jumbo Shrimp.
Jumbo Shrimp, I'm sorry.
It was very high schooly. You know, you had parents putting their input to
All
what
up
you
in
should
those
do
discussions
and
yeah.
everything of business wise, because you know we were still, even though we were in high school, we were still treating it like a business, as if you would if you were an adult trying to
Definitely.
start a band. So I would think that, so they were there helping us, which I'm very appreciative and everything, and it was a lot of help. But it was hard because you know we were all it was a span of like, you know, me and John, our original drummer in that band, being the oldest, and then from a younger there was a young member in the band that when we started, it was like in 8th grade when we started it.
So by the time I was graduating high school, they would have still had 2 years of being in high school. We had, we had 2 other members, so it was kind of ready. What's weird is everyone thinks we were like a ska band or something when they hear that name, and
Right.
not even remotely.
I'm thinking horns. When I hear that name, I'm thinking horns.
Not even. There's no horn. I mean, I guess we did. I mean, Dylan, our guitar player, played sax on quite a few tunes.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like. I mean,
Horn
we
section.
we had like the first song that ever came out. Our related artists were like The Cure and The Fray and Weezer. Like the first song is like really depressing. But yeah, no one really thinks Jumbo Shrimp, and then they listen to our music and think, you guys should be called, I don't know, but not that. Does not sound like that. So
So you guys are touring together, just the two of you. Do you ever have any session workers come in and have a full band?
yeah. I mean, so depending on the gig, we'll kind of see what's necessary for the show. I mean, there's and sometimes you think that a show might need this, and it doesn't. Like we just did an art gallery show, and like the drums in there were so super loud and super cool. But right after our set, a DJ just starts pumping like electronic beats out of the PA, and the people just started really bumping in a
Then
way
they start dancing, I
Then they
get it.
really started dancing, and I was like, dang, we probably didn't need to bring a drummer out
I
to this
feel
show.
like we're definitely experimenting a lot with the
Yeah.
whole gigging thing, especially since we came up here as a 3-piece with a drummer, and then we split with that drummer in 2020 in the summer. So now Ben and I have been kind of doing a lot of experimenting of just different things of what we can do, and there's a lot of options.
There's a
between
lot
the
of
two us,
options.
but-
Yeah,
I could hear some percussionist underneath that.
Yeah. I
really
mean, I
built a-
definitely,
you know?
in terms of recording it, having to kind of opens things up too, because you're not really thinking, how are we going to do this live so much, and I think when we were 3, we were always trying to hone in whatever our inclination was in that moment, just to make sure it didn't sound ridiculously empty live comparatively. But doing it acoustically like this, it doesn't really matter.
I think it
It's still
fills in
different
because
anyway,
your playing is so percussive, and like whenever one person is playing chording, the other person is kind of percussive and staccato, and it really works and meshes together really nice.
Trying to just use our ears.
Yeah, I think
just
that we
listen to the
get
others
that
do it.
from, like, I know when we were with Jumbo Shrimp, we worked with this guy Lucas, who is a producer, has produced actually some like big names
Big
and
names,
stuff.
yeah, Lucas is cool.
but-
Lucas Sater.
Yeah,
shout out.
and he really opened up our eyes to like you were saying, kind of one would do one thing and the other would do the other thing, to make it more I don't know, like bigger sounding.
Yeah,
or whatever.
trying to make us fight
Yeah.
less over frequencies and the space and the sound, you know.
Yeah.
Just,
Give
hey,
that credit
you
to
know,
him
you're
for sure.
Yeah, you're playing the same chord, and so you keep turning up. Maybe if you just played a different version of that chord, higher or lower, you'd hear the chord fine, and you wouldn't have to keep turning up and stuff like that. And that applies. I don't think I've learned more in a day than that day with him, just like talking about production. Like he produced 2 songs, and I was like, okay.
So do you guys have an album or anything that's recorded that the fans can check out?
Yeah, tons of material.
EP and 2 singles.
EP and 2 singles, and another single coming out. We've got tons of stuff recorded, and then at some point that'll all be out again, or out.
Where do we look for that stuff at?
You can look for it anywhere streaming services that you want to
Spotify.
find. Spotify, the Apple Music, anywhere.
YouTube.
YouTube. We got some stuff on there and everything. Live performances too, if you want to listen to some live versions of the songs.
And I'll put the link underneath this so everybody can be sure to check that out.
Cool. Yeah, we're also on Instagram.
Yes.
Our website is super bare bones, but if you are having trouble finding anything, thoughtsband.com should have a link to all of these links.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about the writing process. How does that start? What do you get influenced by?
That's a good question.
In terms of the writing process, every song has been different in this band's history. They might start one way or start another way. A lot recently, Angel will have a song written, and I'll sit on the drums and we'll kind of work out the arrangement that way, or I'll sit down and just kind of start demoing some beat, and that will lead to a song idea. But I think for the most part, every song is sort of we try to figure something else, some kind of other process out, because we've just been. It isn't based around how are we going to do this live. Like when we were a 3-piece, we'd bring a song in and we would arrange it pre-recording. And I think
it's kind of the way it should be, though. When you're writing, you're thinking of the song and not
not thinking too much about how we're going to perform it and what I think what that really led to is just kind of going against our own initial idea as to what the part should be, just because it's that part's cool, but then it's going to sound empty live, or all these things. So I think it's been much more song based and much more production oriented. And say
there's some really catchy hooks in there, man. It's what kind of I'm curious, what kind of stuff do you listen to?
Lots of
maybe it's completely different than what you're writing too.
I think we both listen to similar stuff, but I think we also both of us have our own little unique weird stuff that we listen to that maybe the one might not listen to as much.
I was listening to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard earlier today, and that's probably
what
not a band
this?
that Angel would listen to by choice.
I've listened to one album. And
one album, and that's weird because with most bands, listening to one album is you've listened to a huge amount of discography, but that's a little.
Well, see, that's the thing that we're missing, I think, today. I don't know how old you guys are, but I don't want to give my age away. People probably already know. But back in the day, we used to go to the record store or the CD place and listen to a CD from front to back, and it was the whole experience. You really can't get the band from the first song or the first half of the song. You have to. You might say, "Oh, I don't like this band. It's not a great vibe." But then the next song is completely different, and it takes you on a journey. And I think that's what we're missing because of the internet, because everything's so quick. And attention span is 100 million miles an hour.
Yeah, I think it's sort of one of those things where the internet allows you to listen to whatever song you want to.
It's a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily take away from people being able to put something on and just listen from start to finish, but.
But when you have stuff popping up on the side, oh, look at this, look at this.
Music I've had this conversation with some of our friends that are we went to an arts high school. So I've had this conversation with dancers and things like that, and music is a very active art form, but it can also be an incredibly passive art form. No one's casually got dancing going on in the background of a restaurant you're at or something, whereas you might go to a restaurant and see an artist, and that same artist might be performing at a venue the next night to an actual crowd of people that cares, but they're playing to you, and maybe you're the only one clapping because you're just noticing, but that music isn't meant to be clapped to. It's meant to be ambiance. Music. So we're one of those art forms, and that's the same thing when you have people over. It doesn't even just pertain to live. It pertains to just listening to music. A lot of times I'll cue an album up, and then maybe 5-6 songs in, they're this is a vibe. Can I cue something up? And all of a sudden the album flow has been interrupted because there's a new song in there, and then.
Now you gave me a thought. I wanted to see what your opinion was. I feel like there's an album, like a band will put. Let's just say Dave Matthews Band, because everybody knows them. They put out one vibe on their album, but if you ever seen them in concert, it's a totally different vibe, and
sure.
every show is different. So I think there's a live feel, and then there's that studio feel, but they're both great. They're just two different things.
Yes, they're two different things, and then like with you see this with a lot of groups now. They either sound very, very like a lot of times like there's the comment where it's like, wow, they sound just like the record. They sound just like the record, and a lot of times the comments are, wow, they couldn't sound less like the record, but this is still cool. Like I think because of that we have especially because you can just pull up the song you want to hear the way you want to hear it anytime. Like people are pretty open-minded with how the stuff sounds live. It doesn't need to sound just like the record.
Yeah.
It's kind of a relief, like, listening to you guys today versus, sitting behind my computer or in my car listening to your album. I'd much rather hear the push and pull from you guys live. And I have to say I've been pretty blessed during this pandemic because I've had all these bands come in here and I got to feel these different vibes and just connect, and it's the most wonderful thing in the world. It makes me appreciate why I started playing music.
I was just saying that I think if you're any type of musician, whether you're like playing in your room or you're gigging a lot, like 4 gigs a month or 6 gigs a month, whatever it be, we over the pandemic, it was definitely like an eye opener of like how much you really appreciate having those moments. And then now things are starting to get back to normal and everyone's trying to go out and actually gig and listen to music and live music and stuff, and festivals are back. I think musicians and music lovers in general are really liking what's happening right now, and probably will appreciate it, I hope, like more.
Yeah, it was there was something missing there to the listener. It was an emptiness, and that's why there was a lot of depression happening and a lot of just unbearable moments because we didn't have that music to pull us through, that live connection.
The live connection.
You don't think about it until I had not gone more than a month without playing at least 2 shows since I was like 10 years old. And all of a sudden I'm 20, I turned 21, we go out to a bar watching UFC, it's great, and on the UFC, one of the champions is from China, and she's like, we're going through it right now in my country, like it looks like we're kind of pulling through, but it hadn't even hit America yet.
But you always see those headlines about China or Africa or like Israel or somewhere, and you're like, oh, that's not going to happen here.
Not going to happen here. Yeah, I mean, it was all of a sudden.
Exactly, everyone.
2 weeks later, it's like you're doing, like, we're music teachers, and all of a sudden we're doing all our lessons by Zoom, and like all of a sudden life was changed, and every 2 weeks we thought, okay, just another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And just a year went by, and now more than a year went by, and it's just.
I think the pandemic gave me some space to be able to write and to think and to kind of pick out a path. There's some good things that happened. I mean, the way it happened was kind of crazy, but other than the depression, if you could look at the highlights, what did you guys gain from having this space and time?
I would say, and I mean, right off the back, I'm sure most people could probably relate to this. Is I got 2 things. One, I listened to a lot of music. I was just exploring having nothing to do, just working and being at home and everything, and hanging out with the roommates. You kind of, I feel like we listened and watched a lot of just new stuff and everything, and then really explored that. But then also just kind of slightly, focusing really down on myself. When you have no time to, like, you can't go out to a bar or to like a party or whatever where you're meeting people and talking to people and like discovering new people, you're not really focusing necessarily on yourself. Maybe you are a little bit, but like you have other distractions. This was no distractions. You could do what you can think and do whatever you can do in that time of over a year and everything. And I really felt like, for me, I thought a lot of things happened to me in the pandemic, as I'm sure it did to a lot of people. And it helped me be like, okay, this is
to focus
for myself, so I can actually focus. Distractions are gone now.
I feel you on that. Yeah, I feel you on that.
I'd say the word is perspective.
I tell you what, though, I don't know if you guys felt this, but coming out and playing my first gig after not playing for a while, you're trying to get back into what you were doing, and like your brain's like, oh yeah, I could play that, and you're thinking all these things that you want to go, but your body's like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And it's like, even though you practiced, you didn't practice with the band, with the connecting with other musicians, and it's just a weird feeling, and I'm still trying to get out of that.
I mean, I think we were very fortunate that our music school actually grew in the pandemic, so like we're higher than our pre-pandemic numbers now, and that's one of those things where it's like I was expecting to play way less during the pandemic, and I mean, granted, not gigging, not rehearsing with the band, but I still think our chops stayed pretty high in the pandemic. Just because we had to, I mean, I had to teach 6 days a week, mostly on guitar.
But I feel like teaching is different.
Teaching, yeah, totally different. I mean, the first gig back, feeling everything, like I was like, my chops are here, but my head, like, it didn't feel like a gig. I'm used to a gig feeling. Like, I'm used to this kind of, not casualness to it. It felt bigger than most gigs had ever felt to me. Like, gigging was such a casual thing for so long that to come back to it, and it was like, this is the one. We're back.
Like you said, it's appreciating what we didn't realize we took for granted before.
No, I feel that, and I kind of, going off of what you said, like, not maybe appreciating or whatever, I feel like maybe for me, because I haven't played so long, or like the gig atmosphere hasn't been around me for so long, it's almost like not anything about chops or anything, but like doing the gig and the whole post after the gig thing just was a little surprising. Like, back in Florida, we would play these gigs where we end at like 1 o'clock at night or something, and then like pack up and probably be done, like getting in our cars at 2 or so, or maybe a little before 2, and then I would have work at like 4 in the morning the next day, and I used to be able to do that, like, okay, that's fine. It's I'll make it and whatever. I had to do that for our first gig back, and I literally called out of work. I was like, I'm not going to work. Like,
you used to do it all the time. Yeah, that was.
I thought I could pull through, but it was not. I was just like so tired. I was like,
oh yeah.
And it wasn't even that long of a gig. It was an hour and a half, and it was.
We got back earlier than the sets used to end. Yeah, it's like
I would have had
more sleep than you used to get.
But I was still like, nope.
No way. Hadn't even left New York, we knew
we
knew what the deal was going to be. You got to be in the grind to embrace the grind.
And I'm a drummer. My first gig back was a bigger stage, and it was like we didn't get to pull up right to the stage. We had to load in. So it was like, by the time I loaded all my stuff in, and I'm like taking my good old time trying to get this kit together. Finally, we got everything together and mic'd up, and it's like, oh God, now we got to play.
Yeah.
And it was never like that before. What happened?
Yeah. It's like, dang, we're back.
I did feel a little out of shape carrying my amp. I hope in 20 years, if I'm still playing gigs, which I will be, that I'm still thinking, like, remember that year I didn't get to do this? Like, I've been calling it, I have to go play this gig, and like I think my mind has just shifted to, I get to go play this gig now, and it's wherever I want.
It's a good way to think.
Yeah, so I just think it went there with time. With time, I think that's the biggest thing that I got out of the pandemic. I just, like, I get to play gigs whenever they're back.
Like, definitely more recently, especially in the adult years, when I was like doing college and stuff, I was like listening to not like a lot of jazz.
What'd you go to college for?
I never really got a degree, but I was studying music technically.
Okay.
But I was getting a business certificate while doing that. So, but mostly I was taking it for the jazz classes. I wanted to get my theory better and everything, and I was still taking lessons at the place that we were working at, and I just felt like I was starting to get into songwriting more and more, and I just wanted to get my chord knowledge on the guitar better and everything, so I started learning jazz on the bass actually, and then kind of switched it to guitar.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So I was listening to jazz and all that, so there's a little bit of influence of jazz in our music, but it's very more just like chords. Like nothing, there's like, it's not like we're soloing for 20 minutes in our songs. Our songs are pretty pop related, so pretty much, I wouldn't say we don't like every pop artist, but there's a lot of pop artists we like. I would say. Like Harry Styles.
There's a lot of R&B and soul in there too. I feel.
Yes, that too. Definitely that. As much as you can, I would say Stevie's a big one for us. Stevie Wonder. Sorry if I have to clarify, which I should.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
every
not
time
too.
I'm like Stevie, like who else is there? But
Who else is there?
Well,
who else is there that goes by Stevie?
Well, you got Stevie Ray Vaughan, but he's not here. So.
Yes. Yeah, and also we're talking about that R&B and soul. And,
Right.
He's totally the blues king, but I think that's one. Maybe I'll throw in some blues licks every once in a while, but I feel like that's one genre we just kind of. Yeah, we just kind of don't play blues much.
No.
We in trio mode we used to cover a lot of Cream and like Hendrix, so I guess that was sort of the old vibe. It was like we have these very like ornate pop tunes, and then we
like
do the
CCR.
show, and it's like and it's like almost like the Who shows where like they do Tommy with the orchestra, but then they do Tommy live, and it's just guitar, drums, and bass, and it's loud, and it's feedback, and it's raucous, and it's a different energy for sure, which was kind of what our show's vibes were for a while, but we were always trying to be as close as possible to that first vibe. So I think like the rock element is not gone, but it's hiding a lot more than the funk and soul is definitely peering through more.
Yeah.
But I think pop is still like the greater umbrella that everything else hides underneath,
So what's next for you guys? Are you going to be writing some new material, planning some new tours?
I hope to definitely tour, and if we can't, I mean, it would be awesome to get like a Florida run. We used to do these Florida runs when we were living in Florida. I mean, obviously, it'd be awesome to go back and do that, but full on tour. I mean, I would love to get one going for this year, but most likely it'd probably be next year. My guess. Probably if we,
Unless you guys want to pick these guys up, they're available.
Yes, yeah. Hit us up where you should go. But yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't mind just touring the East Coast. Just go up and down.
So yeah, that I mean, I think when you said all those things, I think all the above in our future.
We've already been writing. I mean, as much as
I mean, it's
probably any band in the pandemic.
Yeah,
or more.
Probably as much as other bands during the pandemic, if not more. Yeah. I think at some point it all comes out. You just
gotta get it mixed.
Yeah, you gotta get it mixed.
And that costs money.
Costs money. You gotta, but it's just also just time and effort. Just little tweaks, and now it's ready. Okay, now we mix it. Okay, now it's ready. Okay, now we mix it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So what do you say? What do you want to say to your fans before we wrap up here?
We got It's not official yet of when a date is, but it's already been mixed. We just gotta release it. We got a new song coming out.
Always Care.
Always Care.
When that comes out, I do not know.
Be on the lookout. If you want to follow us on Instagram, Thoughts Official Band, we'll let you know right on there.
Right on there.
When you go, and there's a link on our Instagram to the Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and I want to say our website, but I'm not sure. But if not, all the places that you can get our music.
And all the stuff will be down below, guys.
All right.
So please like these guys, share their material. Every little bit helps. If you can donate, that would be awesome. These guys need the help. They need anything that you can give them. So just your support and telling your friends about these guys would be a huge help. And I hope to get these guys back in this area, maybe at some wineries or some other venues, maybe XL, some places around here. But it was an absolute pleasure hearing you guys, and I didn't know what to expect, but when you guys came in, you totally blew my mind. It was like something my soul needed to hear.
Glad you like, man.
Yeah, definitely glad you like.
Yeah, we brought some stuff, played the tunes. Glad it went great. Hope maybe we'll do this again, but hopefully we'll see you in the area again.
Yes, I'd love that. Well, until next time, guys, be safe out there. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Hey guys, it's Justin
and Jamie
from Creative Sound Studios Online. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, subscribing, and watching these local artists perform.
We really do this from the bottom of our hearts, and with your support we can continue to help performing artists and musicians. So if you'd like to donate, there's a donate link on the website. Only give what you can. I really think you're going to enjoy what's coming up. And once again, we thank you.